It's how do we miss that? What's going on here over on Substack Notes and what's going on? So the Elysian, who I'd never heard of, okay, that is
Isn't
Elle
that
Griffin.
movie with
No, that's
Matt
Elysium.
Damon?
That's Elysium. But
okay.
She writes
Gotcha.
a counter to this that says Substack shouldn't decide what we read. Okay? And that's kind of, and what I said was, I wasn't invited, but I would sign this too. And this is a counter petition to the one that has been put up by the Substack against Nazis. Substackers against Nazis, which is just silly. Because I think
Put
everybody's...
that link in chat for people to sign if they agree with it.
Oh, I will. For a long time, the internet felt like a hostile... All these links are going to be in the description afterwards. But for a long time, the internet felt like a hostile place. And then I stumbled upon a garden. He's a fiction writer. In the middle of the mire, Substack emerged as a beacon of writing and discourse. It was a garden of learning where I could find and follow artists and intellectuals, where I could study human flourishing from some of the best minds pursuing it. I love the sound of this. It's so brilliant. But just outside the walls, the rest of the internet is pressuring Substack to act more like other social media platforms. After an opinion piece was recently published in The Atlantic critiquing fringe voices on the platform, many Substack writers began calling for moderation. They want the platform to decide who can say what and who can be there. But I and the writers who have signed this post are among those who hope Substack will not change its stance on freedom of expression, even against pressure to do so. Because we've seen that before, and it hasn't worked. Other social media platforms have actively given reach to an enormous amount of divisive content, and moderation has amounted to private companies deciding who to deplatform based on their own agenda. Facebook has struggled with hate speech and misinformation.
Exactly what leads to.
Facebook has struggled with hate speech and misinformation no matter what it has tried with its moderation policies, and Twitter's moderators have actively suppressed stories that might sway an upcoming election, among other discrepancies. But there can be no doubt that there is a lot of hateful content on the internet. But Substack has come up with the best solution yet, giving writers and readers the freedom of speech without surfacing that speech to the masses. In your Substack inbox, you only receive the newsletters you subscribe to. Whether you're a reader or a writer, it is unlikely you'll receive hateful content at all if you don't follow it. And she says that she never has, though she saw it all the time on Twitter and Facebook, despite never having followed an account in that vein. Most Substack readers subscribe to a newsletter via email and never see anything except the emails from the writers they subscribe to. 96% of her own subscribers read via email. That tracks about with mine, not even via the app. And they might not even know that I publish my newsletter using a platform called Substack. How exactly would they come across hateful content on Substack? The author of this recent Atlantic piece gave one way. Actively go searching for it. That's the one way that they gave that you could find it, is to actively go searching for it. He admits to finding white supremacist, neo-Confederate, and explicitly Nazi newsletters by conducting a search.
It's like, you know when people are upset about like something coming up in their Facebook feeds or whatever, it's because you've trained your algorithm to give that to you.
Effectively, yes, like, that's part of it.
It's like to have found this.
That's part
had
of it.
To have been looking for it.
That's part of it, but I don't want to be dismissive. I don't want to be dismissive. Listen, over 200 people have signed off on this, and there's a good reason why. And the reason why is because of something that I have been upset about too, which is that Substack is picking winners. Substack has amplified a couple of these people over time and has interviewed and has showcased their newsletter for their entire audience. And that's what these people are screaming about, that even if you got 15 new subscribers because of it, why is Substack in the business of getting you 15 new subscribers for your neo-Nazi funded or whatever? You know, again, this is where we're going to talk about whether the content of Richard Hanania is, or he's an asshole for sure. Is he a white supremacist? I don't know. Was he at some point? Yes. Is it promoting that content now? I don't know. The other one was interviewing someone who specifically was a white supremacist, and it was one of those type of interview series, almost like on Jerry Springer, where you bring them on knowing who they are and what the... and asking them about their ideology so that you can learn about why they think the way they think, which you can do. That's legal. That's allowed. It's not promoting them. Now, Jonathan Katz again admits to finding white supremacist, neo-Confederate, and explicitly neo-Nazi newsletters by conducting a search of the Substack website and extremist Telegram channels. But this only proves my point. If you want to find hate content on Substack, you have to go hunting for it on extremist third-party chat channels, because unlike other social media platforms, on Substack, it just won't show up in your feed. People are also saying again that Substack has recommended some of these newsletters to them, and I never got one of them personally. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. One thing mainstream media outlets misunderstand is that Substack is not one platform, it is thousands of platforms, and you get to pick which ones to be part of. And Substack has come up with a powerful way to moderate those platforms. Rather than rely on the company to hire a team of moderators, which they, by the way, did, but Substack democratized the process, giving full moderation control to writers. I have full control. As the author of the Elysian, she has the authority over her own community. She can lock comments on her essays to paid subscribers. She can delete comments on her essays and can ban individuals from commenting or subscribing for the set of amount of time that I choose, including indefinitely forever.
Right.
I can delete every comment.
Ever.
I can delete every comment one user made with the click of a button, and my readers can report comments they deem inappropriate. I am the curator of my own space, and here comments are locked to paid members, including on this post, because this is a space where thinkers from every political spectrum are safe to engage in respectful discourse. That doesn't prevent you from sharing this post with your communities and having discussions there if you'd like. That's the whole point. When Substack rolled out Notes, their Twitter alternative, it came with those same controls. I can lock replies on my notes to paid subscribers. I can delete replies to notes that I don't like. I can mute, ban, and block people from commenting and following me. And best of all, when I'm scrolling my feed, the only posts that show up are by the people I subscribe to and by the people they're interacting with. There is no viral tweet inserted into my feed. It's a peaceful place filled with writers and readers who are discussing human progress, in her case. Now, she says the Human Public, which is a nonprofit advocating for better public spaces on the internet, compares online platforms to public parks. These spaces should be freely available to the public, but they can be a beacon of community gathering or not, depending on how they are designed and used by the community. They list Substack in their database of pro-social digital spaces for its ability to build bridges between groups. Facebook doesn't make the list, but Facebook groups do, which speaks to the power of small, self-moderated groups. And Facebook groups has all kinds of problems of its own, by the way.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to just read this whole thing, but it's really important to get this part of the protest and this counter narrative.
Right.
I'm not disagreeing with what she's saying. Yeah, thanks.
Substack
Thanks,
newsletter
Rachel.
near you.
But as they say, why shouldn't we have digital platforms where everyone can feel safe and flourish, like in our best parks and libraries? And yes, that's absolutely true. That's what we've created on Substack. A network of all the best parks and libraries where all of us are safe to flourish. If someone says something in a park you're not part of, not much happens. It doesn't get surfaced to the masses. Unless you actively try to find it, you won't. You're no longer exposed to the niche worldview of whoever says the most outrageous thing or influenced by media outlets profiting from your attention. You're only exposed to the voices you follow and trust online. I'm going to challenge that too, because I had somebody in my comments and in my mentions who follows and subscribes to our newsletter. Her name is Nona Lee, and she's been restacking every person that signed off on this letter, and she's been very active on Notes in the last couple of days. We see you. We definitely do see you and acknowledge you. She has been harassed at times by neo-Nazis and has spent times blocking, having to block and deal with the harassment from this and from posting replies to certain Substacks. I don't know what she writes to incite these things. That's not my thing. And it's not necessarily her fault. And I'm not going to be a victim shamer or blamer here. I'm just going to say that some people say that has been happening. So They say, so she says, Emily says that that's not happening. I've got people that say that it has been happening to them. So I don't know what Emily's response to that would be other than to say block them and move on. And that was basically my response to them is don't get yourself in a frenzy about it, block and move on. Then they don't get access to you ever again.
Yeah.
The result is that we're uniting ourselves into communities, not dividing ourselves into factions, right? Because you're only exposed to the voices that you follow and trust online. And my community is different from every other community that's being curated on Substack because I follow a different set of writers than everybody else. I have at least a few people that nobody else that I know of that does subscribe. And hopefully I introduce them and it starts to spread those communities. And that's one of the things that's happened here. Spend some time on Substack. Then spend some time on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, or Facebook or Meta or whatever, and any of the rest. And it's easy to see that this is one of the best places on the internet. That doesn't mean it's perfect. We're still trying to figure out the best way to handle extremism on the internet. Remember, this thing only launched in April. But of all the ways we've tried so far, Substack is working the best. So let the writers and readers moderate, not the social media platforms. And don't have one big town square we all have to be exposed to. Have a bunch of smaller ones that we can choose to be part of. Maybe the future will come up with an even better idea than this one, but right now, Substack is not just a model for better social media or even a better media. It's a model for a better internet. That's why, alongside the incredible writers who signed this letter below, I'm not advocating for a lack of moderation. I'm advocating for community moderation. I'm advocating for decentralized moderation. Together, we're advocating for a future internet where we decide what we read, not an algorithm or a company, where we can create small gardens on the internet where all of us can flourish. And Matt Taibbi, oh look, Barry Weiss signed off on this.
Is it possible? Oh, okay.
She got named by by what's his name?
Toady, Barry Weiss.
Oh, I know that guy.
Sorry, Netanyahu Toady.
Edward
Barry
Snowden.
Weiss. Barry Weiss.
Freddie DeBoer signed off on this. Okay, and Freddie has been vocal about being harassed by Nazis, but he doesn't want to see this platform censored or anyone demonetized. We saw what happened, even incorrectly, to Mint Press and to Consortium News, and it hurts when you get demonetized. Yep. Matt Taibbi, there he is. He's signed off on this. I would sign off on this too, and I can reply and tell her that I would. There's Fisto, and we read his article first. Now, someone says that if Richard Dawkins signed off on it, then you're in poor company. Same thing with Slavoj Žižek, who I don't necessarily agree with. But at the same time, we are all about the freedom to publish what we want to publish, and that they're free to be wrong too. Sam Khan we're about to read as well. And then Ted Gioia, who is the honest broker and one of the largest Substackers as well, that has everybody's respect, as well as Walter Kern, who does a Substack, who does a podcast with Matt.